Welcome one and all to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, I hope to the high heavens your night did not involve watching the Braves on Thursday night. Can't thank you enough for joining us as always here with my podcast partner, Stephen Tolbert. The Braves tonight lost to the Philadelphia Phillies 19-4. A horribly historic night for the Braves is the best way that I can describe it. It honestly is, it's nearly been exactly a decade. Like the last time the Braves gave up 18 plus runs in a game was 2015, August 28th of 2015. That's how long it's been since the Braves gave up this many runs as they did on Thursday night. Just a completely forgettable game. But you know what? We're here to cover it no matter how bad or how good it gets, and that's what we're going to do tonight. And Steven, I know you're chomping at the bit, ready to break down the historic start from Cal Quantrill and the historic game from the Braves. Good talking with you as always, my friend.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, what a fun night. I had the multiple TV. Obviously it's college football season now, so had the multiple TV setup going. Had the Braves on one, had the Boise State game on the other. And I was curious, who's going to score more points, the Phillies or Boise State? And the Phillies kicked their ass. I think Boise only scored 7, and the Phillies scored 19. There's going to be a number of teams that the Phillies outscored. A number of college football teams that get outscored by the Phillies. But yeah, it was tough. I mean, Cal Quantrill, we're going to talk about him, I guess, if we have to. But you lose, you give up 19 runs, and you give up 4 homers for the second time in the season to one guy. I mean, just the 2020. I mean, just a standing ovation for the 2025 Braves. I mean, what a masterclass of just a shit show that they put on this season, and hats off to them.
I mean, the Braves, though, are doing favors for other teams. They single-handedly made Eugenio Suarez the most sought-after bat at the trade deadline, and they may, after tonight, have single-handedly allowed for Kyle Schwarber to clearly step forward his candidacy for the 2025 NL MVP. But all jokes aside, it was a historic night for all the wrong reasons when it comes to the Braves. But for the second time this year, it is correct, they gave up 4 home runs to the same player in one game. So that's now 19 times in Major League Baseball history that a player has hit 4 home runs in one game. Steven, I don't know if you, besides tonight and that game with Suarez, if you've ever seen another 4-homer game. One that I vividly remember was, I believe, in 1993, Riverfront Stadium. Mark Whitten of the Cardinals. I was more a Cardinals fan at the time. Don't send me off to exile.
Can't believe you just admitted that.
I did admit it. Hey, man, with where I was, my dad was a huge Cardinals fan. But I remember seeing Mark Whitten do that, and it's an impressive feat. Like, you want to talk about like a level of locked in that you rarely see. It absolutely is true. To those who may not know, 19 4-home run games, it's a more rare occurrence than a perfect game by a starting pitcher. That's how rare it is. So when it happens, it is very notable. And of course, it's now happened, I believe, for the 3rd time this season. I believe that's the most in a single season ever. Nick Kurtz also did it for the A's. But I bring all this up because there's no Major League Baseball franchise who's more tied to allowing or 4-homer games occurring than the Braves. And it's absolutely true. They're now the only team in Major League Baseball history to have allowed multiple players to hit 4 homers in a game against them in a single season. It's now been done against the Braves franchise on 3 separate occasions, the most by any MLB franchise in Major League Baseball history. It happened against them in 1950 as well. And teams are now 17-2 in the 19 games where a player hits 4 home runs. The Braves were involved in both those losses. They beat Eugenio Suarez earlier this year when he hit 4 home runs. And, of course, the infamous Bob Horner 4-home run game that we lost in the 1980s. So if there is something to hang your hat on tonight, it is the fact that, yes, when it comes to the MLB franchise that is most connected to one of the rarest offensive feats in the game, the 4-home run game, no team tops the Atlanta Braves.
Awesome. Just tremendous stuff. That's hilarious. I do remember this was like probably more than a decade ago. I think Josh Hamilton had a 4-homer game against Baltimore that I remember watching. I think he actually hit 5 homers in a row, but he hit a 2-run homer in his last at bat the game before. So he hit 5 homers in a row, but 4 of them were in one game. I think I remember Sean Green did it for the Dodgers, maybe against the Brewers. I was randomly watching that game. This was probably 20 plus years ago, but I actually remember watching that game. I think he went like 6 for 6 with 4 homers and like 2 doubles, like the greatest offensive game of all time, at least at that point. So yeah, I mean they're notable, of course, and like you said, they're more rare than perfect games. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So
I just want to confirm I am highly impressed. Your details were absolutely correct, down to the Hamilton and Green both did it. You got the play. You got the teams that they played against correct, and you got the time frames correct. Kudos to you, sir.
yeah, and I remember the Hamilton one because all 5 of his homers in a row were all 2-run homers, which was the crazy part about that. And then I just remember Sean Green's because it was like the greatest offensive day of all time. But yeah, I mean, more rare than a perfect game. That is why it's unbelievable that the Braves have allowed this to happen twice in one season. Just endlessly funny that the one time Kyle Schwarber made an out tonight was with Bruhan, the position player pitching in the ninth or the 8th inning. He popped him up on a 57 mile per hour slider. Maybe that's the trick, but yeah, I mean, you know, I guess being infamous is better than being not known at all. But this is not exactly a record I wanted any part of, and I'm sure nobody in the Braves clubhouse is particularly interested in having this sort of record around their neck. The only team ever to allow multiple players to hit 4 home runs in a game in a single season, but that's just kind of par for the course for the 2025 season for the Atlanta Braves. So it sucks that it was against the Phillies. I actually really like Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
It was a guy that I wanted the Braves to aggressively go after and still want them to go after, although he might be pricing himself out of Atlanta's range at this point. But Kyle Schwarber has always seemed like a really cool dude, but he plays for the Phillies. So, you got to kind of hate him. Like, I think Bryce Harper's a cool dude as well, but he plays for the Phillies. So you have to hate him. So, that sucks. I don't want to ever just to get kicked in the nuts like that against a division rival. I don't care what the season is going, what it's going like. You don't want that to happen. And so tonight was kind of miserable, but I mean, I guess if you're going to fall on your face, at least make some history doing it.
Exactly. At least, be notorious if you're not going to be notable. The thing that I'll say is I agree with you. One thing is that to me, there are a lot more likable Phillies than there are Mets, for instance. We won't
100%.
But
I've had this debate before with people. Like, I hate the Mets.
Yeah.
I don't like the Phillies just because they have like eliminated the Braves multiple times in this run. And, there was always a little incidences, but like Zach Wheeler, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, all those players are infinitely more likable than anybody on the Mets. I would definitely pick the Phillies over the Mets any day.
Agreed. And then the thing that stands out about the Phillies is that they just got such an assortment of Braves killers. But listen, we'll let the Phillies show, part of the Foul Territory family of podcasts, sit there and sing the Phillies praises. The other thing, though, that stands out tonight, besides the Braves making history for all the wrong reasons, Cal Quantrill obviously came into the Braves organization a little over a week ago. The idea was for him to eat innings, and the problem is that he's not really accomplished that goal. Just an absolute crash course and how not to have success with a new franchise through 2 starts now. I would not be surprised if this would be his last start. If the Braves, maybe even this weekend once Chris Sale is brought up, but just an absolutely brutal, and that's the crazy thing about tonight, Stephen, is that this game started off about as good as you could think. With Aaron Nola struggling, you had the Braves working walks, getting big hits, so on and so forth. And then as soon as the top of the first inning ended, it was just all Phillies, and there was no question about it. Cal Quantrill, if you want an example of a pitcher who just absolutely did not have it tonight, that's an understatement for how off Cal Quantrill was.
Yeah, and I think he's on a pretty pretty strong consecutive streak of not having it going on like 3 years now. So my guess is he's probably not going to have a major league job. Maybe by the time you're listening to this podcast, it might be, he might have like 10 minutes left in his major league career. It was ugly. And listen, he wasn't good with Miami. There was a reason he was available. He hasn't been good for a while. He's never really been that good. Like he had a couple of like smoke and mirror seasons, I think, with Cleveland, but he gets hit very hard. He doesn't strike a lot of people out. That's a really dangerous, really tough combination to survive with. And obviously he's not. I mean, my guess is Chris Sale is coming back on Saturday. My guess is they just dump Quantrill and go back to a 5-man rotation would be my guess. I haven't heard that or read that anywhere, but that would make logical sense to me. Unless they just want to give everybody extra innings, and I guess you could get somebody. I mean, they just need to dump Quantrill, quite frankly. And listen, if I was the Phillies, like already losing Zach Wheeler, and by the way, shout out to Zach Wheeler. Hope what he's going through is much more serious than baseball. It's a pretty devastating injury that he's going through. So, best wishes to Zach Wheeler. But after losing Wheeler, Aaron Nola does not look good and hasn't looked good most of the season. I have real concerns about the Phillies once they get to the postseason. Now, this is not the Phillies show, so we're not going to spend any time breaking that down. But just as a side, Aaron Nola also did not look great tonight. But yeah, I mean, Cal Quantrill is just not a major league pitcher at this point. I would not be stunned at all if when Sale comes up, Quantrill is the one to get dumped.
Absolutely. And it'll be very interesting to see kind of what happens this weekend when it comes to the roster moves that the Braves will make. But despite a very forgettable and unfortunate start to the weekend, there is plenty of reason to remain tuned into the Braves when it comes to some potential recognition for young Braves this weekend. We're going to discuss that in just a moment after a word from our partners.
The dog days of summer means the MLB is fully heating up, and so is your shot to score big. Download the Pick 6 app for the easiest way to turn your baseball takes into actual cash. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you are in the mix for big cash prizes. No gimmicks, no weird rules. And get this, all new Pick 6 customers will instantly get $50 in bonus picks on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL. New customers play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Ride the upside where a few bucks can turn into a bag only on DraftKings Pick 6. Crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. 8/24/25 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So, Stephen, it is August 28th, and we are about to enter we're in the home stretch. We're about to enter the last month of the season. Obviously, what many of us had hoped would be the goals that we would be close to accomplishing this time of year have not happened. This season went off the tracks a while ago. So what still stands out as opportunities to track, reasons to watch, things to cheer for when it comes to this Braves team this season? And, one thing that we've talked about is, of course, the NL Rookie of the Year race. Drake Baldwin, of course, everybody knows if he were to win the award, it'd be an honor, obviously, it'd be a great accomplishment for a breakout year for him, but also the, draft pick, that could come to us if he wins. That's one thing to certainly keep track of through the end of the season. But through the end of this weekend, it's also important to keep track of what could be NL Pitcher of the Month honors for Hurston Waldrep, who's been arguably the best pitcher in the National League for the month of August. And he has one more opportunity to add to that resume on Sunday. But I bring up Hurston Waldrep's pursuit of NL August Pitcher of the Month and Drake Baldwin's pursuit of NL Rookie of the Year, because there's one person who actually could thwart both of those campaigns. And we talked about him earlier this week. That is Cubs pitcher Cade Horton. Horton has firmly established himself as the favorite now for the NL Rookie of the Year race because of the fact that he has emerged as Waldrop's main competition for NL Pitcher of the Month in the month of August. He's been absolutely spectacular. So on both fronts, it's going to be a very interesting watch when it comes to Drake Baldwin's playing time, Hurston Waldrop's start on Sunday, and then, of course, what Cade Horton does on the mound in Colorado tomorrow.
Yeah, so if you haven't, I would not be surprised if there's a lot of Braves fans that don't know this, but if you're not following like the odds on a daily basis, Cade Horton has kind of pretty comfortably moved into the betting favorite odds to win National League Rookie of the Year. He's just been awesome, and especially in the second half. And, obviously Baldwin has slowed down a bit in the second half. And listen, we mentioned this on our last show. The Cubs are just a better team. They're playing in more meaningful games. That matters. I don't know if it should matter, but it does. It does matter, and it matters to a lot of voters. So, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing if the award happened today, Cade Horton would win. And I'm talking about the Rookie of the Year. Obviously, National League Pitcher of the Month is much more of just a kind of a vanity award. But considering where Hurston Waldrop was before August, which was on no one's radar to be on the major league team, that's pretty incredible. Like the first month you come up all season, you're in contention to winning best pitcher of the month in the entire league. So that would be cool. But yes, I mean, it's the Rookie of the Year is kind of getting away from Baldwin a little bit. I am going to be curious to see. So the Phillies throw 3 consecutive lefties, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that there's Suarez, Sanchez, and then Luzardo. And they have been sitting Baldwin versus lefties. Now, I don't think they're going to sit him all 3 days, but like if you told me right now they're going to sit him 2 of the 3 days, I wouldn't be surprised. And I can already tell you that's going to piss some people off. So, yeah, I mean, as we sit here today, I would definitely say that, Drake Baldwin is no longer the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. He does need to get hot when he does get playing time. We'll see how much playing time he gets, especially, the Braves facing 3 consecutive lefties this weekend. We'll see, but that would be really cool for Hurston to come up and literally your first month of the season win, pitcher of the month, not rookie of the month, but like pitcher of the month for the entire league. That would be a pretty cool story.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear, and I think people will think both of us as strong advocates for Drake Baldwin getting as much playing time as possible to win Rookie of the Year. I want to make something perfectly clear. Like, even if he had played 90+% of the games, there's still a very good chance Cade Horton would have moved in front of him. So my point that I'm getting at is Cade Horton has legitimately been that good. He has fully earned the right to be the NL Rookie of the Year leader right now, and also potentially the Pitcher of the Month in August for the National League. So certainly want to give credit where credit is due. But I know that Brad and Scott talked about Hurston Waldrop on yesterday's podcast. But Stephen, one thing that stood out to me that I was very, very impressed about when it came to Waldrop, and it's something that you haven't. This is what has separated Braves young pitchers over the past several years: the Schwellenbachs and the Striders, and now potentially the Waldrops from the Elders and others. It's the ability to be resourceful when your go-to source of success is not there. Against the Marlins in that first inning when he pitched earlier this week, the Marlins clearly were trying to lay off that splitter and were making it to where they were going to make him throw strikes and they were going to try to tee off on him. Waldrop did a great job, even without strikeout stuff, weakening contact. I bring that up because it's going to be very interesting to see how he adapts to facing a much stronger Phillies lineup than any lineup he's faced so far. So I know tonight was not fun, but if there's one thing to look forward to, this is going to be a true test of where Waldrop is as a pitcher. These are the type of tests that Schwellenbach excelled at last year to show how good he is. If Waldrop can do the same, that's a really good sign that how Waldrop is finding success can be sustained moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Schwarber and Harper are very different animals than anything he's faced really since he's been up. I mean, he had the Reds, You had the Marlins, you had the White Sox. Even though some of those teams had gotten hot, what the Phillies throw at you offensively is just a much different animal. So, he's going to have to be good. But you were talking about like storylines to follow, even though the Braves stink and the season has been over for a while. Like how Hurston Waldrop finishes the season, how many innings he can get to, how far the Braves push him. Like there's a whole Hurston Waldrop storyline in the last month of the season that matters very much for 2026. So like, even if you have to go on like individual levels, we're not really watching the games for the team performance or the team win-loss record, but we're kind of watching just for individual performances right now. Hurston Waldrop, what he looks like. Joey Wentz, what he looks like. Chris Sale, when he comes back, what does he look like? Spencer Strider, does he continue making adjustments? What does he look like? We're still tracking Jurickson Profar, how he's doing. Michael Harris and Ozzie Albies are trying to have second half resurgences to change the narrative of their season. How much does Drake Baldwin play? Marcell Ozuna's Sean Murphy. Like they're still on an individual level storylines to follow. And that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on big picture stuff for the team, but on the daily level, we're going to focus more on individual stories that have an impact for 2026 and beyond.
Absolutely. And a couple of other individual stories for veterans will be worth tracking this weekend as well. One veteran starting to return to form, thankfully, but the return of another veteran in Chris Sale, who could have a really, really awesome matchup with Christopher Sanchez on Saturday night. More on that in just a moment after another word from our partners.
Kratz, if you need to pay rent for your apartment and you're not getting anything for it, then you probably haven't heard of Bilt.
You have to pay rent every single month. Why not get some points that you can redeem for other things that are a lot more fun than paying rent, like flights, hotels, Uber rides?
That's right. And it doesn't stop there. Bilt is about making your entire neighborhood more rewarding. You can dine at your favorite local restaurants, and you can earn additional points with VIP treatment at certain fitness studios. And you can also enjoy exclusive experiences that are just for Bilt members. They announce them every month. Bilt is turning a monthly expense into an opportunity to earn rewards and discover the best that your neighborhood has to offer. Your rent is finally working for you, and you can earn points on rent and around your neighborhood wherever you call home by going to joinbilt.com/foul. That's joinbilt.com/FOUL. Make sure to use our URL so they know that FT sent you. Get after it.
So, Stephen, the other, weekend specific storyline, we keep talking about storylines, the one that really is the focus of this week to look forward to besides Hurston Waldrop will be the return of Chris Sale for the first time in more than 2 months as he'll take the mound in Philadelphia. Now, of course, it's a mound that he's familiar with. We saw him, I believe, a couple of times last year have a lot of success. He's going to be facing off against someone that you could clearly say is a top 3 or 4 left-hander in the game, along with Sale and Christopher Sanchez. So it's certainly going to be a matchup to watch. What are you looking for from Sale in that matchup, Stephen? What makes it a successful night for you once Sale takes the mound?
Yeah. So obviously just comfort, right? How does he look? I haven't actually put eyes on him on any of his AAA starts. I have a very hard time watching minor league baseball. I don't know what the hell is happening with like the cameras in minor league baseball, but like why does every minor league baseball game look like why does it look like you're filming it with a potato? I don't understand what's happening on that level where like I have a better camera in my pocket than what they use to film those games. Anyway, so I haven't spent a lot of time watching Chris Sale in the minors. So I just want to see how comfortable he looks. The stuff I don't really care about that much in the first start. That'll build back up. Even like the command, how sharp he is. I don't really care about any of that stuff. The results I certainly don't care about. Just how, is he comfortable? Does he look like he's pitching any different because of the rib? As long as he looks comfortable, I don't really care what happens. And as long as he gets out healthy, that's all I really care about. But yeah, Christopher Sanchez, like, I don't know if people know, but like Christopher Sanchez, when Wheeler went down, Sanchez bumped up like NL Cy Young odds. Like he's going to be a guy who gets plenty of Cy Young votes. I don't know if people know that, but he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. So that could be a really fun game. Obviously we don't know what Chris Sale is going to look like in the first start in in 3 months. So, he might be very rusty and sloppy, and, the results are the results at this point. But yeah, just Chris looking comfortable is what I want to see. And obviously just getting out healthy.
Absolutely. And the other thing that stands out about, Chris Sale is, just the simple fact that when he takes the mound, it brings a new level of attention. It's just fun to see him, locked in. Don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case on Saturday, but it'll just be good to see him on the mound again. One thing again, if we want to talk about rest of the season storylines, one thing that absolutely needs to emerge as one of the biggest storylines, having as many of our best players enter the offseason as healthy as possible. That is a huge storyline to follow, and you get a much better sense that's the case for Chris Hill if he's on the mound than if he's not. Also want us to talk about a bit of a return to form. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just read this, so I'm going to bring it up. Mark Bowman, MLB.com beat writer Mark Bowman said that Snit said that because Sale is coming back and they have an off day every single week in September, that they are going back to a 5-man rotation.
Gotcha. Okay. So that would mean Sale, Waldrop, Wentz, Strider, and Quantrill, Elder. Who am I missing?
It would be Elder.
It'll be Elder. Yeah.
Quantrill will be. I'm guessing Quantrill will be the corresponding move for.
I was trying to think if there was an extra there, but Fetty was the extra.
I mean, Quantrill and Elder are probably not that different, but Elder at least has youth and minor league options on his side. So.
Yeah, and he's a body. And,
exactly.
He's been there. So
yeah.
But all kidding aside, the person that I was referring to, of course, is Matt Olson. And, we talk so much about, how good Profar's looked, how good, Michael Harris has looked. A few weeks ago, or maybe 10 or so days ago, Steve and we were talking about the fact that with how good Matt Olson at times has been this year, the emergence of Drake Baldwin, and then the second half surges as well of Profar and Michael Harris, whatever, validation or value you want to put in how legitimate those surges are. If Matt Olson can end the season on a good note, one thing that all of a sudden has gone from a clear area of concern to becoming a strength for this Braves team is their ability to hit as left-handers with Profar and Harris, as well as Olson and Baldwin. That quartet is quite dangerous to go along with Acuna as well as Riley moving forward. Good to see Olson, putting the power back on display. I'm not necessarily saying that, he's back to 2023 form, but it's better when he's hitting home runs than when he's not. But the point that I'm getting at is that, again, Profar, Harris, whatever value you want to put on how much you actually believe in their surges, but if Matt Olson can start hitting for power, then you go into the offseason where that balance that we've talked about for the past 2 years for this lineup, it looks a lot better going into 2026 than it has even the past few off seasons.
Yeah, listen, you and I talked about it on our last show. Like, I want to see the power of the entire lineup because I think that's how you sustain offense for 6 months is you have a lineup full of guys that can hit homers. It's just instant offense. And Matt is a big part of that. And you and I spent a lot of time talking last year about how we felt like Matt Olson was arguably the most important player in the Braves lineup because at that time they did not have a lot of left-handed pop, and he was one of the only ones. Well, I think they did a good job in the offseason addressing that with Baldwin obviously being called up and Profar, who's been a revelation, quite honestly. I know Scott and Brad did a full Profar segment, so we're not going to do that. But, if Profar hits like this, if Baldwin hits like this, and Olson, who is very streaky, we've talked about the streakiness of this lineup. It's just full of individual players who just go hot and cold for like months at a time. And August was a pretty cold month for Matt, especially if you look at like his expected numbers. Ivan at Battery Power wrote a good piece. If you missed it on Matt Olson's August, and he went through all the expected numbers and how he just wasn't hitting the ball with the same authority all month. And, there was some talk is like, is he getting tired? Like the dude literally plays every day, every inning of every game. So seeing him these last few days, hit doubles, hit homers, that was a good sign. And obviously he's a very important player for 2026 and beyond, obviously.
Absolutely. And the other thing about Matt Olson is this, is that, I think in terms of, I'm going to say a phrase here and don't want people to, take it the wrong way. But Matt Olson is on a career trajectory. I talked about it earlier this year where, he had, reached a certain plateau. I believe it's either was by age. I think it was by age, and that he was one of, 5 players to have reached a certain threshold for power numbers. And 3 of those players were Hall of Famers. The other was Mark Teixeira. Matt Olson is on the trajectory to where I don't think that he's going to make the Hall of Fame, but it would not be completely far-fetched if he just absolutely went off in his 30s. We'd love to see it. But the point that I'm getting at is that when it comes to Matt Olson, I know that he's on the wrong side of 30 now, but there's still plenty of reason to want him to be successful. I know we talk about that the most important part of the contender equation for the Braves is Austin Riley returning to form now. But a reason why we say that is because Matt Olson has clearly established himself as streaky as he is, being one of the most consistent guys, especially against better competition. So it is vitally important that Matt Olson ends the season on a good note, because he is one of our most reliable options in big games. And if he can continue to be that way into his 30s, there's really going to be a better shot for the Braves to be where they want to be if Matt Olson's power continues, but just also in general, he keeps showing up in those big moments.
Yeah, I'll say this for Matt Olson's like Hall of Fame chances is that like big and slow guys actually age better than the small, fast, athletic guys, because if you're already big and slow, Father Time can't do that much more to you, right? I mean, Father Time can do a number on Ronald Acuna Jr. and Byron Buxton and, pick your best athletes, Mike Trout. But when you're already, when you run like Matt Olson, which is basically like, he runs backwards. I mean, that's how slow the guy is. Then you can't, age is not going to do anything else to you. So he could very well have like a Nelson Cruz type second half of his career. And I think he'd make the Hall of Fame if he gets to 500 homers, for instance. That's all for a long time been a benchmark. Even kind of like a Kyle Schwarber type of resurgence in his 30s. I can make the case that Kyle Schwarber has been a better player in his 30s than he was in his 20s. So it's not impossible. And I do hope he gets, I mean, I would love, just because of how much crap he catches, because his name is not Freddie Freeman from Braves fans, that would be unbelievable if at the end of his career, hopefully most with the Braves, he got inducted into the Hall of Fame because he just went crazy in his 30s. That would be a pretty fun story.
Yeah, 200, I believe 80 home runs now
Yeah.
for his career after tonight. So 220 away from 500. It's funny, with the, Carlos Stanton, knocking on the door of 500 in time. Kyle Schwarber maybe having an outside chance. Matt Olson maybe having an outside chance. It's going to be a fun debate just how important that 500 home run threshold is, to these Hall of Famers in time. But, again, we're not saying anything that people don't know when it comes to Matt Olson. Everybody knows how important he is to the Braves' success, but I don't think that it can be overstated that this truly has been one of this past decade's best power hitters, and he still clearly is in the prime of his career to be able to deliver not only big flies, but do it in big moments, and that's going to be crucial to the Braves' success moving forward. Stephen Tolbert, anything else from you as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast?
No, just fun game. Fun game tonight. It was a lot of fun to watch. I'm talking about the football game, of course, that I was watching. Yeah, we'll see what the weekend brings. I'm very interested to see Chris Sale. Even though that game's on Saturday, first day of college football, I will have that game on because I want to see what Chris Sale looks like. I'm very curious to see how much Drake Baldwin plays this weekend with 3 straight lefties. I really hope they do the sensible thing and at least play him in 2 of those games. I will not be surprised at all if he's sitting in at least 2 of those games, but we'll see. But we appreciate the support. We'll follow the team as normal, and I think we'll have our next show on Sunday, so we'll recap kind of the full weekend on the Sunday show. But we appreciate the support as always.
All right, Steven. So listen, I know that we're a Braves podcast, but we're both huge college football fans. Let's end the show in style with football season being here. Going to throw out 5 quick games from this weekend, and we'll get your thoughts on who will win those games, potentially why, and we'll see next week when we reconvene for our next edition of the Hammer Territory podcast who had the better predictions. So we'll start off with your Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Florida State Seminoles. Stephen Tolbert, who wins?
Didn't Florida State win like 2 games last year?
They won 2 games last year.
Yeah.
2 or
So
3.
I don't know how good Bama is, but they won more than 2 games last year, so I'll take Bama.
All right, I'll take Bama as well. Stephen Tolbert, my beloved Tennessee Volunteers will play in the Braves' hometown, the city of the Braves, in Atlanta against the Syracuse Orangemen. A whole lot of orange is going to be in the state of Georgia this weekend. Your thoughts? Who wins between the Syracuse Orangemen and the Tennessee Volunteers?
I don't know who wins. I know who loses is whoever has to watch those 2 ugly ass orange teams play each other.
Yeah.
That might be the most visually unappealing game I can think of to watch.
Yeah.
Tennessee should beat the crap out of them, but the loser is everybody who has to watch it.
No. Yeah. No. Those orange ills you've racked up over the past few years. Oops. All right. Hey, let's get to the big games of the weekend. By the way, I am picking Tennessee as well. Let's get to the big games of the weekend, and we will start. Actually, you know what? Hold on one second here. Yeah, we will start with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish against the Miami Hurricanes. Stephen, who do you pick?
I don't know a lot about these. I haven't really followed either one of these 2 teams offseason. I know Miami obviously lost their quarterback. He went to the NFL as the number 1 pick. I'll take Notre Dame. I just trust that program to rebuild or to restock more than I trust Miami. I think Miami did have a really good offseason. I think they brought in a lot of talent, but I'm going with the program that's been a little bit more stable, and I'll take Notre Dame.
I'm a huge Marcus Freeman fan, and I think when it comes to coming off a big because Notre Dame obviously was in the playoff themselves. They made it all the way to the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Coming off a big year last year.
They have a new quarterback. They have a new quarterback too, though, right?
Yeah, Riley Leonard went to the NFL.
Yeah.
Marcus Freeman can coach up a defense. I think that he can run a program very well, so I pick Notre Dame as well. Steven, we've got a matchup of 2 quarterbacks who Garrett Nussmeier, I believe, and Cade Klubnik. Yeah. For LSU and Clemson, those 2 teams will be facing each other on Saturday. Stephen Tolbert, LSU or Clemson?
For some reason, Brian Kelly just absolutely stinks at these openers. Like, I think they've lost like 4 or 5 in a row. LSU typically just gets better as the year goes on, but they usually don't start great. Clemson doesn't usually start great either. I'll take Clemson. I don't feel great about it, though. You could probably talk me the other way.
No, I'm going to go Clemson as well. I think Clemson has the better defense. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know a lot about these 2 teams, but I think that Clemson overall probably has a bit better roster. And I think that Dabo Swinney realizes that this, really could be, his opportunity to get back into that upper echelon of the national spotlight. He's fallen off over the past 5 to 7 years since they, won multiple national titles. But this could be, the best chance he's had in years to really have a true shot at that national title. So I think I'm going to go with Clemson.
By the way, I saw a mock draft, like a 2027 mock draft or 2026 mock draft. Cade Klubnik was the number 1 pick.
Yeah. And I believe again it's Garrett Nussmeier. I believe his name, Nussmeier. He's someone that I think could be a 1st-round pick. I know that there's a lot of
maybe I just don't pay attention enough to Klubnik. I've never watched him thinking, oh yeah, it's like clearly like the next number 1 pick.
Well, my understanding is from what I've read when it comes to this quarterback class is that there's a lot of really intriguing, high profile, high pedigree quarterbacks in this class compared to the last few classes, but there's not like a true, real number one pick among them. Like if Arch Manning came out, who we'll talk about in just a minute, he would be, I think, the clear, prize of that class to go number one. Lenore Sellers of South Carolina is another guy that I've heard, could surprise people with going number one, kind of like Cam Ward did over the past year. Yeah. But I just think that this is going to be a deeper quarterback class than we've seen in recent years. But yes, I've seen that as well where he could go number one. But speaking of number one, possibly one of the biggest overall matchups that we have seen in recent history for an opening weekend game. The number one Texas Longhorns against the number one, is it the number one Texas Longhorns? Yeah, I think I got that right. It's Texas versus Ohio State. Yeah, number one Texas Longhorns versus the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes. Stephen Tolbert, who you got?
Well, I think Ohio State has the best defensive player in the country and the best offensive player in the country. I think Caleb Downs of Alabama, by the way, is the best defensive player in the country. I think Jeremiah Smith's the best offensive player in the country. I don't know anything about Ohio State's quarterback, though. Like, if your quarterback sucks, then it's tough to do anything. And their quarterback, he might be good, he might suck. Honestly, the same goes with Arch Manning. I know the name is Manning, but like, he might suck. He could suck. If he's good, then they're probably going to be very good. Sarkisian has really built that program into a powerhouse. So if Arch Manning is actually as good as they think he is, Texas might just road grade to the national championship. But if he's not, I mean, they got to go into Columbus. They got to go into the Horseshoe and beat Ohio State. That's not easy. So I could see, I'm actually going to take Ohio State in this game. Anytime I don't know for sure, I usually just take the home team. So I'm gonna roll with Ohio State in this game. But their quarterback might stink, and they might lose by 50. A lot of it's going to come down to quarterback play.
Yeah, it's hard to say the defining game of a quarterback's career is the first game when he truly takes over. I mean, Arch Manning started games already for Texas, but this is the first one where he truly is the guy for Texas. I'm going to go with Ohio State as well. I agree with you. I know that
pick all the same teams that I pick.
I know. We're not here to cause controversy. We're here for common sense. I feel like that.
I'm taking Syracuse. I'm changing it. I'm taking Syracuse over Tennessee.
Well, I mean, I'd rather you go with common sense than just be stupid.
I think everybody knows by now that I'm not going to go with common sense.
That's fair. But no, what I do think so when it comes to Ohio State, that both of these teams lost a lot of talent. They're having to replace it. But to your point, they've got the best offensive player and defensive player. That stands out more in these type of games, I think, than most games. Even playoff games, these regular season games where it's the first game that you're playing to start the year, you're playing against a quality opponent. The known products are who you truly hope show up and perform, and both Smith and Downs could do that. So for Stephen Tolbert, the picks are Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Syracuse, and Alabama. For myself, it is Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Tennessee by 50, as well as Alabama. Hopefully Ty Simpson has a great game. So not a lot of, difference there, but listen, it's just here to discuss college football. Don't mean to make the show longer than it needs to be, but let's end it on a good note. Let's end it on a positive note. Something me and Steven both enjoy. Go Braves. Go Vols. We'll leave it at that. I'll let Steven wrap it up with anybody that he wants to cheer on. But more than anything, I hope that you have a very safe and healthy, happy and healthy weekend with your friends and family, enjoying Braves baseball, enjoying football, just enjoying the end of the summer, as we always like to do with fall right around the corner.
And I will end the show shouting out what I hope to be the brand new insurance salesman, Cal Quantrill. It's been a great career. Might be time to head to the dealership, open up your own dealership, life insurance, car insurance, whatever you want to do. The world is your oyster, my friend.
Oh, okay. Cal Quantrill, if you're listening, we wish you the best, sir.
It was a pleasure and a joy to watch you.
We wish you all the best in your future endeavors, Cal Quantrill. Until next time, we'll talk to you here on the Hammer Territory podcast. For Stephen Tolbert at B_outliers on Twitter/X, myself at Stats SAC. You can find Hammer Territory across all forms of social networks. You can find Foul Territory, great parent company, Foul Territory across all forms of social networks. Make sure you tune in to YouTube, Spotify, wherever you check out your podcast. That's where we'll be for free. Make sure to enjoy it. Until next time, go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast.